All right, guys. So today I'm gonna talk about can you learn a language with only listening? Like, can you go all the way up to fluency without focusing on reading and just doing only listening? And the short answer is actually yes, right? I think a lot of people that say you need to combine half reading, half listening, it works, right? But you know, when you do it this way, you kind of build a reliance on reading a lot more, especially if it's half half, because it'll be hard for you to learn new words to listening alone, and you have to basically rely on reading to learn more words, right? But if you do only listening from the beginning, then you end up having the ability to learn new words through listening, right? Because your actual hearing ability is very developed because that's the only thing you could rely on, right? And this is what I experienced with French. Even though I did like a lot of like French high school, like I did like 1 year of French high school before I started like immersion in French. But even then, like I only did the immersion to listening because I wasn't really interested in like French reading at all. Like I just only listened to French, and because of that, I learned the language entirely in French. I mean, through listening. So even if I knew like what words looked like on paper, I still had to like acquire the language to listening, and I was able to do it only through listening. So this is how I know like okay I can get fluent in language with only listening, and I did it really really fast too. Like most people think like listening would take a while, but for French it took like it was very quick for me to learn how to understand spoken fluency in French just through listening. And I think the reason why like people think that you can't do this with other languages is just because like they never tried it. Because like for most guys like like if you're gonna learn language like Chinese or Japanese with only listening, it's gonna take a long time, because like these languages are very different. So like from English, so only listening is gonna take a while. Not because like listening is bad, but because learning Japanese as a language is gonna take a long time anyway. Like whether you're gonna do reading or listening, Japanese is still gonna take a long time. Okay, so I don't think it's because like the listening is inherently flawed. I think it's just because the languages you're choosing are very hard anyway. So it's gonna take a while, regardless if you do only listening, right? But I do think like if you do only focus on listening in the beginning and you basically memorize words or do like Anki, basically you do like maybe some conscious grammar study, let's say you memorize a bunch of words in Japanese or Chinese, right? Up front, and then you go immerse in the language. Like I think that's a good balance, right? Because you're still learning the literacy through like vocabulary, but then you're cementing that vocabulary through listening, right? A lot of like there's some people that say like don't learn reading at all, and I don't think like you need to do this because like I said like in French I already knew what words looked like, but I only acquired them fully through listening only, right? So this is how I know like okay, it's not that literacy is bad, it's just that if you only rely on reading for immersion, that's bad. So doing like reading immersion is bad in the beginning, but not necessarily literacy itself. So if you learn how to like read words, right, on paper, it's not bad because as long as your immersion is only listening, right? Because I know in French, like, because I only relied on listening, like I was able to learn the words and acquire the words and the nuances of all the meaning and stuff through listening only. So that my ears were very developed, and I was able to continue to learn new words after, right? Having like a somewhat of a base. Like after 1 year of French high school, you know like 500 of the most common French words, and from English loan words you know like 1,000 words. So you learn like 1,000 words in general, in total, right? After French high school. So like if you have like 1,000 words in your head through literacy, like you know how to read the words, then like that should give you like a good base for you to like jump into immersion through only listening, right? Then you try to catch the words you know through ears, and then you learn how to like acquire the word and what the words mean in context through listening only. And I think it's a good way to develop like a really near native like accent, like almost perfect accent, with just listening. You know what I mean? And actually like learning pretty fast. So this is what I'm actually gonna do with like new languages is to actually do like this, right? I mean Japanese, I did so much immersion in Japanese, I just like brute forced my way like, through mass immersion, like acquired a bunch of words, right? Without ever doing that much Anki. I did Anki towards the end of Japanese, right? But other than that, like with French, like it was entirely through listening. So, if you want to learn any language, guys, the best combination would be to do like conscious study, learn literacy, like learn how to like actually read the words on paper, just so like you can have a visual hook of what words look like in the pronunciation. And then you do the actual immersion time with listening, right? Instead of doing like Anki and then like half reading, half listening, just do only listening with immersion and then fill the literacy with the conscious study. I think this will be the best approach because, you're reducing your reliance on reading, but you're still making a lot of progress with your listening immersion because you're already learning these words on paper. You know what I mean? I think this is like a more sustainable, fast way of actually learning the language through only listening, which a lot of people think they can't do because, a lot of polyglots still predominantly use reading, which is why like a lot of polyglots never really obtain like a perfect accent in a foreign language. You know what I mean? It's because of this. They rely too heavily on reading. But, if you rely on your acquisition on only listening, you're most likely to have a perfect accent, even if you already learn, even if you learn some literacy on the side. Because your entire acquisition model is, through auditory. Even if you know some words consciously, you learn the words nuances and you learned all of them in context through only listening alone. So you're basically just filling in gaps, but in a way that doesn't destroy your accent. So, that's why like this method is actually like the best method. I think, if you want to have a perfect accent, like it's actually not like people can't for some reason find it really hard to tolerate ambiguity with only listening. You know what I mean? Like they feel like they have to read, but like when you started learning Japanese or any other language, like in the beginning, even reading was ambiguous. Like you couldn't understand anything with reading either. So like, you know what I mean? So I do think, when it comes to listening, like, make that the priority in the beginning until spoken fluency, and then like you can learn how to like immerse heavily in reading, right? This would be the best way to do it. Like for me, if I wanted to pick up like French literature, like I could learn how to expand my literary French because I already have a solid base in spoken fluency through ear. So I can actually develop high vocabulary without destroying my French accent. Just because like I already learned like the entire spoken language through listening. So it's the best way to do it, guys. And you can actually do pretty fast. Like most people think like this won't happen fast enough, but it's like if you just actually immerse in limited content like slice of life or colloquial content, like make sure you're not targeting anything that's like too fantasy or too literary. Like don't watch shows that are like too literary because like then that's gonna like kind of like your ears are gonna be confused. Like it'll be take longer, right? But if you only stick to like colloquial speech, like if you watch or like slice of life, it doesn't have to be just slice of life, but anything that's like modern, anything that's modern urban is most likely going to be colloquial speech. Okay, so I recommend focusing on that for listening. That way you can learn the colloquial language fast through listening, which is basically the way children do it anyway. So yeah, guys. So this is why I think like only listening is actually king. But you do it in this way though. So yeah, guys.